how did a bunch of kids in Sheikh Hasina's 15-year dictatorship How much does a child cost? Under the former government of Bangladesh, led by Sheikh Hasina, it was only 12,000 taka. The corruption had gone so far beyond that a mother's only way to survive is to sell her child, her own child, sold for just 12,000 taka. That's less than $100. This is where we at. This is what corruption does. And while she's forced to sell her baby just to survive, the government has spent 400 crore taka, equivalent to more than $33 million, on shiny gold statues of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. $33 million just on statues. Why such lavish spending? Because Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding leader of the Awami League, is idolized by his daughter, Sheikh Hasina. The Sheikh Hasina, who got dethroned by the Gen Z revolution because of her wrong ways, because of her corruption, and most of all, because of her autocracy. This is the story of how Bangladesh's Gen Z stood up and said, enough. For 15 years, the government had looted the people, breaking promises, and drowning the nation in poverty and corruption. It was about time for this government to face the consequences.
People were storming the residence of the Prime Minister, who had escaped in a helicopter.
Now, let's break down how the whole thing started. In Bangladesh, the government introduced a system known as the quota system to ensure representation and opportunities for certain groups in government jobs and educational institutions. Under this system, specific percentages of available positions were reserved for designated groups. For instance, 30% of government jobs were reserved for the children and grandchildren of the freedom fighters. Additionally, other quotas existed for women, indigenous communities, and underprivileged regions. The breakdown looked something like this: 30% for descendants of freedom fighters, 10% for women, 5% for indigenous communities, 10% for individuals from underdeveloped regions, and 1% for physically disabled individuals. While the intention behind the system was to create equity, it sparked significant controversy over time. The allocation meant that the majority of positions were filled through these reserved quotas, leaving only a limited percentage open for general merit-based competition. This created frustration among students and job seekers. Many who performed better in exams were denied opportunities because of the rigid quota structure.
The demands that we have, just simply accept them. Don't twist your answers. You said that the issue will be solved within a month, but that didn't happen. Even the Prime Minister stood in Parliament and said in front of the entire nation that there will be no more quotas. Still, our demands were not met.
The system became even more unfair when people started using family connections or special privileges to get jobs or school spots, even if they didn't have the right qualifications. This left hardworking and deserving people behind, making many feel angry and frustrated. It got worse when the quota system seemed tied to politics. Many of the people who benefited were seen as supporters of the Awami League and were easily misusing the quota for their benefit, even fabricating certificates to qualify under the quota. What made it even more problematic was that if someone who rightfully fell under the quota supported a party other than the Awami League, they often had a harder time getting in. This made even more people upset. Because of all this, people began to demand change. They wanted the quotas to be reduced and for jobs and school spots to go to those who worked the hardest and earned it, no matter where they came from. In 2018, students from all over Bangladesh took to the streets in one of the largest protests the country witnessed during Sheikh Hasina's time as a leader. They demanded reforms to the unfair quota system, uniting students from both private and government universities.
Students from all universities have joined together in front of the Central Library of Dhaka University. Demanding the cancellation of the quota system, they have announced that unless their demands are met, they shall not attend classes nor sit for exams.
Under immense pressure, the government then cancelled the quota.
I've announced that there will be no more quotas, and a committee has been formed for implementing the removal.
By 2024, the quotas came back just like they were before. But this time, the student protests didn't only stick to reforming the quotas. As the protests for the quota reform went on, the students got furious by the government and started protesting everything that Sheikh Hasina's government did wrong. They wanted to see real change to make the future better. What started as a protest to reform the quotas ended up reforming the whole system, led by the anti-discrimination student leaders. Asif Mahmood was one such name amongst the anti-discrimination youth leaders. His role in the anti-discrimination students movement brought significant change to the student people's uprising.
Awami League was like a monster. Before the 7th of January elections, we also hoped that there will be a big protest. We were also ready. On the 6th of January, we gathered in front of the Raju sculpture with the slogan, "No vote under Hasina." But Awami League was such a monster that no force could defeat them. You saw in the papers that billions of dollars were looted away from the country, and this money is now being used against the state. To reform the nation, a new group of people in Bangladesh gave life to the conflict of the fascist system. Their family and the billions of people who came down the highway, they are now aware of politics.
There was a built-up frustration because of the inflation that was through the roof, the corruption that was spreading everywhere. People wanted justice for the families that were skipping meals just to survive, while politicians were busy making shady backdoor deals and agreements with India. One specific scandal got the people on edge. On May 31, Mushfiqur Rahman Ifat, son of ex-National Board of Revenue member Mutiur Rahman, purchased a goat from Sadiq Agro. The goat's staggering price of 1.5 million taka sparked a social media frenzy, with many questioning how someone who earns only 78,000 taka per month could buy a goat this expensive. The saga of Bangladesh's most talked about goat. During Eid al-Adha, social media buzzed with videos of a goat priced at 1.5 million taka.
I have sold a cow to him from a different farm for an even higher price.
Adding to the controversy, it was revealed that Mutiur Rahman's monthly salary as an ex-NBR member was only 78,000 taka. This raised eyebrows as people wondered how his son could afford to buy a goat worth over 1.5 million taka. But the goat scandal isn't the only story that shook Bangladesh. Just when you thought corruption had reached its peak, another bombshell dropped. Syed Abid Ali, a driver for the Public Service Commission, reportedly owns substantial wealth that has left everyone questioning how he accumulated such riches. In a press conference on the outcome of her visit to China, Sheikh Hasina revealed that a former support staff of hers has amassed 400 crore taka in wealth.
He worked in my household as a helper. Now he owns 400 crores BDT, and he doesn't travel without a helicopter.
How can a mere office worker gather so much wealth? This has sparked widespread concern, as it raises serious questions about the sources of his sudden fortune. But corruption in Bangladesh isn't just limited to individual scandals or isolated incidents. Take, for example, the controversial power deal with Adani Group. This 1600 megawatt coal power plant in India has become a significant factor in why Bangladeshis are paying more for their electricity. Adani charges Bangladesh almost double the price, 14.02 taka per unit in 2023 compared to 7.83 taka in the previous years. Adani's power alone supplies around 1/10 of Bangladesh's total power needs. This disparity has pushed the average power generation cost from 5.91 taka per unit 5 years ago to 11.03 taka today, an increase of nearly 87%. Mounting unpaid bills have only worsened the situation. With Bangladesh's ongoing dollar crisis, officials are now grappling with unpaid electricity bills, with Adani's power contributing an alarming $100 million every month. A similar situation was faced by Sri Lanka back in 2022, where they faced a major economic crisis due to the corruption. Let's hear from Patham Karner. Known for his activism, Patham was a central figure in Sri Lanka's mass uprising against economic mismanagement and political corruption.
We knew that the government was not heading in the right direction. It was well accepted that there's an economic crisis is coming, there's an economic crash will be happening. So we knew that the people will come out of their homes and they will start voicing their voices against the government. So in Sri Lanka, we have seen a lot of people uprisings before because we have a communist Marxist group living in Sri Lanka. It's a political party. They had these communist rebel movements in 1971 as well as 1988. But that was not successful. The government successfully managed to suppress them. They controlled it. So government continued because to me that was not a critical juncture that they acted. But in 2022, we really had a critical juncture.
When the students got fed up with corruption and unfairness, they found new ways to fight back. And one of the biggest tools they used was social media. In Bangladesh, about 55.1 million people are on Facebook alone. That makes it the 8th most popular country for Facebook users and the 2nd in South Asia. Even though Bangladesh is a developing country, almost everyone has access to the internet. This means that when something big happens, people can talk about it instantly online. The students had fought against this quota system before, in 2018, and now they were fighting again. When the High Court said the quotas were back, the students couldn't stay silent. They used Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok to organize their protests, share what was happening, and show the world how the government was treating them. Hashtags like End Corruption and Justice for Students helped bring everyone together. They made it easy for people to find information, join the conversation, and show their support. When the police started using violence against peaceful protesters, videos of these incidents went viral. Everyone saw what was happening in real time. And it made the students even more angry and determined to fight for change. And that's how the revolution began. A generation ready to change a system that's been stealing from them for years. Not just in Bangladesh, but across the globe, Gen Z is tearing down the old world to build a better future. From Colombo to Caracas to Dhaka, their voices are shaking the foundations of power. They are confronting corrupt governments, environmental destruction, and systematic injustice. This is the Gen Z revolution, and it's only getting started.